I'm Priscilla.
What's up, guys? I'm Brittany.
And I'm Jahari, and welcome to our podcast, The Ninth Semester.
Welcome to episode 3, LinkedIn, more like LinkedOut. Today we're talking about networking and starting your career. It's pretty much understood that networking is pretty much what everyone points to when they talk about advancing your career, whether that's your academic career and finding yourself a mentor or somebody to guide you through your education process, or as we talk about a lot, or going to be talking a lot in this podcast about building your network as young professionals. Networking is pretty much at the key of everything. And us as a group have had a lot of amazing mentors in our lives thanks to networking. And that's really what today's episode's about. So, a fun activity that we did before the start of this episode was we basically looked at each other's LinkedIn pages and found out when we first joined LinkedIn, which is an app that is, if you don't know what LinkedIn is, it's an app essentially that helps you connect to different people, different interest areas and career areas, and for you to network with them. And we all, funny enough, had a lot of different ages that we joined LinkedIn around the same time. I know I joined LinkedIn in 2017, which would have been my sophomore year in high school. I'm going to pass it over to Brittany to let you tell a little bit about her LinkedIn age.
I guess first I want to say if you don't know what LinkedIn is, please build a LinkedIn page. If you're at this point listening to this podcast, please have a LinkedIn. Um, I started my page in 2018. It was after a summer program I was in, and I think they told me to build it during the program, but knowing me, it probably stressed me out enough that I didn't do it until the school semester that started after. So yeah, I was a junior in high school then. Jahari, when did you find out that you built your page?
So I actually looked today in preparation for this episode. So I just went back to like my they show like all of your activities. So I went back to the very first activity in July of 2017 where I added an email address to the account. And I don't really remember what my story was. I was definitely working at the time. I definitely had a job, but I don't remember what like the impetus for starting because it wasn't like considering this kind of school I went to, it wasn't something that was like explicitly talked about as a necessary component of like career development, right? Or um, networking or building some level of profile. Content creation wasn't really in back then. So
Not back then.
right. So
Right.
I mean, no, but think. I mean, no, but seriously, like content creation, especially on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, is still a very nascent thing. When you say content creators, people think YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, maybe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So LinkedIn, like there are content creators, there are influencers on LinkedIn, but they're still very, very like underrepresented, if you will. And
Yeah.
so yeah, so I had no particular like impetus to make one other than the fact of, well, I'm working. I've been working now at that point for 2 summers. Let's connect with more people. And I just used it to expand the amount of I used it as a way for if I was going to meet people, especially people who are older, I didn't give them
Mm-hmm.
my phone number or my Instagram. So yeah, here's
Yeah.
here's my LinkedIn.
Good point.
So okay, so you start LinkedIn in 2017. When would you say was the experience, the event, the workshop that, kind of tilted your view of LinkedIn? Like, when would you say you started using it in earnest to kind of further your career as opposed to just kind of building the profile passively?
Ooh, that's a Mr. Shelton with the hard hitting questions.
I mean, this man always knows how to move the conversation
I know,
forward.
I know. Brittany, you want to go up first, or you need time to think about it? Because I
Um,
think
yeah, I think I have an answer to it.
go for it.
I think the first time that I really started thinking about it was COVID. I think just because I had more time on my hands, and I was like, I should probably start getting serious about whatever I'm doing. So I think that was 2020, probably like the summer before our sophomore year. I started putting everything in there, and started kind of looking around to people I can connect with in different fields that I wanted to go into at the time. It was mostly medical at the time, but I was connecting with a lot of people that way. and making sure that my LinkedIn profile kind of gave that personality to where people would be like, oh, like she definitely wants to go into the medical field. So just giving that image of myself, I think I started getting more serious about it around that time. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I kind of similarly to Brittany. Mine was probably closer to freshman year. I had a professor who kind of, instead of thinking about using LinkedIn as a way to, in the sense of you think kind of more so forward in the process. So you think about, oh, if you want a future job or career, you think about what you're going to apply for and stuff like that. I had a really great professor who kind of encouraged us to kind of work backwards. So if there was a certain career or job specific job title that I was looking at, he really encouraged us to go find someone on LinkedIn, especially someone like an alum who
Mm.
we kind of had a closer, might have been able to get like a closer connection point or network point with, and work backwards and see what they did to get in that role that they had, whether it was a, I guess you can consider a conventional method to that role, or if they did something really unconditional and ended up in that role. And thinking about LinkedIn in that way, I think really helped me because it could be very daunting just thinking about like using Brittany as an example. It could be really daunting just hopping on LinkedIn and being like, oh, I want to go into healthcare. And like, there's like thousands of, if not openings and stuff like that for something like
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
So having a professor who kind of showed us, I know for some people that's the standard. And then he also encouraged us to do this thing called LinkedIn stalking, where you kind of do the same thing, where you basically lurk on people's LinkedIn's account and just see, how they ended up in their role, some of the things they did. I know that's really helpful to, to even start conversation points with people. But I credit that professor for helping us think outside the box. And then also going into internship season, I called it seasoning,
Oof.
intern season. It's very, especially for, we'll talk about this, I'm sure later, but just like when you start getting into looking at very competitive programs that you want to be a part of
Mhm.
for internships, especially as kind of like a first intro while in college, it's very important to not only do some research on the organizations you want to work for, and that usually starts at LinkedIn about finding out who are the hiring managers and
Yeah.
other intern experiences. So I know for that for me, really getting into internships was another huge kind of opening point for me to kind of figure out LinkedIn and really encourage me to build up my profile and connect with people. What about you, Jari?
I think I still don't know if I use it to build a career. Like, I see people use it as a means to communicate about where they are in their stage of their career, right? Like, they actually post the updates on when they start new roles. If they're open to work, they actually post about being open to work, right? Like, they try to, find people who are going to the same conferences. And I think maybe it's just because I'm just not there yet. That's just not. I mean, obviously, I was open to work for quite a bit of.
You're so
We'll get
funny.
into that.
However,
We'll get into it.
however, I mean, I think I took it as like if I saw a role that I liked, I connected directly with that person. I didn't do like the general post because I don't know how far it would have gotten me per
Mhm.
se.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it would just be like the connect, like for instance, the job that I'm starting tomorrow. Well, tomorrow when we're filming, it won't be tomorrow when you hear this, but the job that I'm starting was actually like a connection of a connection of a like it was like a second degree connection
Yep.
that put it on my timeline just by reposting. And I didn't really have a strong relationship with that person, but I connected and messaged the hiring manager for the position, and that kind of flowed into how I got I didn't get the position that they were advertising for. I got another position that they kind of like offered to me, but I would say I'm still working on. I think I'm still figuring out what I want my career to look like in order to use LinkedIn for that reason. But I do
Yeah.
make an effort to connect with people who I think are like-minded at the very least, right? Like no matter where um their work lies. Like, I have people in the music industry all the way over right to people who let me I can't even think of the most
The
random like
complete
thing.
opposite of music, you
Like
know?
literally the complete
Yeah.
opposite, right? Like people like I'm not anywhere in
Yeah.
the music industry, right? Obviously, but I have people from there all the way. Let's say people who are like 5 years younger than me who are
Yeah.
connecting with me on LinkedIn because they're about to
Yeah.
graduate high school and we went to this well, not at the same time, but we went to the same school.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that kind of leads into like how important connections are in general. Like, I mean, I know it's always the main talking point in like any college seminar. It's like, build your network, blah, 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 blah. But like, it's actually so important because you never know what opportunities will present themselves in those areas. Like, even in like what you were saying, Jahari, like the music industry and stuff like that, you never know if there's a role that you want that's in those fields until like it happens or it presents itself. So, super
And
I
important.
agree.
you don't really, yeah, no, that's so true, Brittany. And I was just gonna say quickly too, I
Hmm.
think something that is just really, I know during my job hunting process that really just kind of, I don't know, shocked me or was a surprise to me was just like how many roles don't even go live and they already have people who are in networks with like the hiring manager who already has first dibs for the role, like at
Right.
Right.
least in knowing about the application. Like that's something
Exactly.
that like I don't know. I feel like that's the type of stuff career services in college never talked about was the fact that like you
Right.
have a lot of times where like people are getting first dibs on roles that aren't even live yet.
Yeah, that's how I got my role.
I mean, I'm also a perfect example of it, guys. I graduated with a B&B major, biochemistry and molecular biology, and I'm a software engineer now. Like, it's definitely about the connections you make and like the people you talk to get roles nowadays for sure.
Well, I was gonna. Okay, so this is kind of connected, but not really. I feel like the like. Okay, well, let me just ask the question. I'm not gonna try to like set it up too hard, but
Go for it.
the career that you're in now, is that with the career you thought you'd be in when you started your profile?
Oh, absolutely not for me.
Oh no, no. I like how we
Absolutely
both,
not.
Brittany, were like, absolutely not. No. I think I guess I'll take first swing. I mean, thinking about I'm not. I'm gonna ignore 2017 me because I will give the pretense that 2017 me wasn't even like I said a sophomore. I was a sophomore in high school, so let's forget
Right.
about that. But like even in, I mean, I would dare say that even in recent years, like senior year me, I think I was thinking I was going to do something maybe in the sector, but not specifically what I'm doing now. And I guess a refresher for our audience, Priscilla here. I was a double major in history and media studies in college with a concentration in media production. And so a lot of my work experience was in social media and marketing, but it was one of those things where I think truthfully, I didn't think I would ever have a position that I would be doing socials full time. I think I more so saw myself in positions where I might have been doing some social media work on the side or a part of my my job task, but not 100%. And so looking at that now, where that's something where, I mean, I think it really just came back to having awesome mentors and networking because I know um, all the mentors I've had and networks I've been able to meet and meet awesome people from really just encourage me to try new things and try new skills because that's kind of how I ended up with my internship experience with social media to begin with. One of my first internship roles was for a I was technically supposed to be a research intern, and they found out I enjoyed doing social media. So I was writing a research paper, doing the historical research, and also running social. What were you thinking?
Yeah. I guess high school me. She was a baby for sure. Had every hope in the world. Uh, I came into college wanting to go to med school so badly. And I had amazing mentors throughout college that were putting me on that path pretty directly. But something senior year, it just completely shifted in my brain. I had to do a complete rework of my LinkedIn because I was no longer applying to med school. I was applying to the complete corporate workforce right after college, right? But even then, uh, I was kind of applying to internships dealing with software engineering first, and that was kind of through people that I knew in the Atlanta area, just from back home, that were kind of in the same career. Granted, at some point, I do want to work on like medical devices, so I put my actual degree to work at some point. But I knew at first I just needed experience in some type of coding or just software engineering experience. So I was like, you know what, let's try to get some type of internship going. Um, and just kind of jumped into that role, and I completely loved it. So I restructured basically my whole life and got into this career. So yeah, definitely my LinkedIn looks a lot different than it did quite literally probably a year ago to the day. Not to the day exactly, but just the January time period. Um, as I was in the internship in the spring and then going into the actual workforce coming into the summer. So yeah, interested to hear kind of what yours look like, Jahari, since you asked the question.
Oh, well, yes. Well, I had other things. Well, it's okay. Okay, I'll answer and then I'll circle back where I wanted to go. I think for me, I don't think I strayed far at all from where I thought I would be. Even six was that's almost like that's like 6.5, almost 7 years ago now. But um
I thought you were about to say sixth grade. I was like, oof.
no, please. Um I definitely feel like I'm gonna be working for a nonprofit, and of course back then I thought I'd be working for a nonprofit too.
Mm.
Like
Look at
nothing.
there.
Actually, back then I was working at a nonprofit. Literally, when I made the account, I was working at a nonprofit. So of course, that's not shocking. I think if I ended up in corporate America, the music industry, if I had somehow become a singer or something, like I would have been shocked and been like, how the hell did I? I mean, yeah, well, oh well, how the hell did I get did I get here from where I was when this account was made? But nonetheless, um, here we are.
Yeah, speaking towards the changing work landscape, like how much is really defined by book smarts versus stuff that you learn on your own nowadays too with the job force. Like I
Okay.
don't know if you guys can speak to that in your current roles, but um kind of that experience with how much of what you learned in school was actually transferable to what you're doing now.
Ooh, Jahari, I think you should go first on that one
Yeah,
because
I was gonna say I
I
can
know
go first.
you.
Mine is pretty straightforward. I mean, I think so. My job is in fundraising, right?
Mm.
Fundraising and events. So I did events while we were in college. I didn't really do events. Well, I've done events for the same kind of organizations, right? Student organizations, cultural organizations, right? At college and in high school, right? So I would say maybe that's like 5 year or 4 years worth of experience, right?
Mhm.
Um, Putting together those events right from top to bottom, including coordinating with communications director Priscilla, that's you in this case. Um, and coming up with graphics, coming up with the way to market it, like how we were gonna frame the like everything, right? And I did not think I was going to be like I wanted to switch from where I was, I guess, in like programs into communications like broadly, but I don't know if I knew that I would be doing what I'm going to be doing. Um and somehow I've lost the plot of your question here. And
No, no, no. I mean, I think you're getting there. Just kind of like how much of like what you did in
right, right,
college
right, right,
or
right.
even in classes that are transferable to what you're
Oh,
doing.
okay,
Yeah.
nothing in classes. The only thing I would give them
Yeah.
credit for is being able to write. Like I will and again, I can't answer this like fully because I haven't started yet, but like being able
Mhm.
to write is a very strong skill when you're fundraising because a lot of it is kind of like when you're in the
Asking for
right, like
grants
you're
and stuff,
asking, like
right?
you
Yeah.
have to like you write communications to different people, right? You write communications to foundations, you write communications right to subscribers, you write communications to the other people working in your organization about how much money you raised, who you raised it from, what how much you spent on the events that it took, all of the like details, right? um that go into different sides of how you make the machine work. So I would say the writing skills and the presentation skills definitely help from from school transfer over to work. But I think also you can't really buy like the ability to sell yourself or to sell a thing,
Yeah.
right? Like you can't like that's a skill that has to be worked. It's a like a an ability that has to be honed. Like you can't. I'm sure Brittany, and this is no shade to you. I'm sure if I put you in a room and asked you like how many people can you get to raise us towards our $1 million goal by the end of tonight, you'd be stressed out.
Yeah, definitely just like in
So I think some of it is just like where your personality matches too, right? Like
Mhm.
honoring the gifts that you've had. Like we all have different life experiences. We all have, kind of situations that make us who we are, right? And some of those things turn into gifts later on, right? Like where you may be told, like me, you talk too much, but it works out for you because you end up
Right.
talking
So
for a
funny.
living and you talk people out of their money and their check.
Yeah, no, like I'm so glad that you guys kind of talked the way you did about your experience because I was literally thinking, when it comes back around to me, I'm like, take this with a grain of salt, but like most of the fields you're applying to after college, like you really have about 35% at most transferable skills, but clearly that's across the board. I was thinking maybe that's just like a STEMmy thing, but clearly that's an experience that other people have too. And I think for me, uh, I did have computer science background. I started in my senior year of high school, and I took, enough classes to get a minor in it when I was in college. So I did have that background, but even going into the workforce where, I didn't have the full major, like the extra like 4 classes maybe, you can see the difference in skill or at least the knowledge base that I was coming from compared to other applicants. And I think some of the most important things that I've learned and developed in college were the soft skills, being able to advocate for yourself, being able to project yourself as adaptable as someone with great communication skills, because it's an extremely important part of being successful in any career. So being able to project that to, the hiring managers, the team leaders in my field, they could see that I can make up for, kind of the lack of book smarts, if you will, to make up the team effort, the skills that I could develop over time and put in the work to do. So it's just important that you're also developing other skills other than, learning your teacher and how they grade. Um, which I felt like, especially in STEM fields, it's like you memorize information and you're like on the short answers, oh, I know how this professor wants me to answer this question. So
Must be nice to have short answer questions, you know. That's
please,
over here.
please,
Laughs, laughs and humanity essays for me personally.
hey,
But
I still had to write papers in the STEM field, okay? just,
no,
just
I'll be.
Papers
mainly
is
numbers
kind of
and
a stretch.
graphs.
I was about to say lab
Papers is
reports
kind of
with
a stretch.
pictures and images. Like, come on.
Okay, okay. Yeah. But yeah, it's just I think just kind of knowing yourself, kind of like Jahari and Priscilla have both said, knowing yourself, knowing where your strengths are, knowing where your weaknesses are, and being able to communicate that in a way that sells yourself.
I just want to stress the importance of connecting across and connecting across, right? Like, the people who were in college with you, right? The people who are still in college, right? But may not have gone to the same college as you, but are connecting with you because of industry connection or they came across your profile and thought you had something interesting to offer. Um, connect with those people, right? Because those people will also move and maneuver throughout an industry, right, or through a career journey that may be helpful to you being connected with them later on, right? You
Hmm.
may see them, right, anywhere, right? Like conferences are big, right? When you become a
Yep.
professional, right? Networking events, so on and so forth. So you never know who you might run back into, and you never know who might be a fruitful connection that's not yet, right? What we tend to do, which is connecting up, right, at our
Yep.
stage
Right.
in life, right, connecting up. So just connect across. Be as intentional about connecting across as you are about connecting up.
Hey, I think
And
that's
that's
a
a
good closer.
yeah, it's a great closer. We talked a lot about, LinkedIn and kind of post grad, how we feel about the networking space, and I hope you guys learned a little bit of something out of this episode.
Right.
I think
Yeah.
everything we talked about was kind of important. So
I think we go
in
into
one way or
careers
another.
every episode we record. So, if anything, I
True,
think this conversation
true
is
that.
always
But
ongoing.
thanks for tuning in this week. Hope to see you guys next week.
Right.
Yeah.
This has been the
All right.
ninth semester with PB&J signing out.